What do you guys think after 44 years of marriage and success, knowing each other almost 50 years, literally through war, through marriage, through raising your kids, through transitioning into business ownership, all of that stuff, you found a way to get it together.
Yeah.
What's the secret for
Sauce.
Janet and Bob
What's the secret sauce?
in terms of getting it together? Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever thought what it might be like to literally be in a bunker at war with the one that you love?
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We're about to dive into a phenomenal story of a couple who truly lived through that.
This is Stephen and Corey, and welcome to Get It Together.
I'm Stephen, and
I'm Corey. And today we have a beautiful couple, and we promised you guys that we would have couples on that you can relate to, or that you can hear their stories,
right.
So that you can see that marriage is not a smooth ride.
That's right.
But we also promised to make it exciting.
Exactly.
And we've been picking and choosing, and we asked this couple, and it was like a couple of months ago, and they said, sure. We're like, oh, good.
Yeah.
So we're so happy to bring to you Bob and Janet Hudson from Tennessee.
Yes.
Bob and Janet, thank you so much for being our guest on Get It Together. And we're going to talk about your lives, if that's okay.
Thank you for having us. Yes, absolutely.
You bet.
So Bob and Janet met in high school in 1977.
Long time ago.
Oh, 1977. Most kids weren't even born then.
Yeah.
And were married in 1980. They have been blessed with 2 children, Jessica and Tyler. Both served in the Air Force for 13 years. Thank you for your service. And deployed to the Gulf War out of Myrtle Beach Air Force Base for 8 months. Their daughter, Jessica, had to go to their parents' home in Florida because they were both serving. So think about that, handing your child over because you're both out there serving. We're getting to what Bob and Janet did in the Air Force because that's important to know also. But Bob, after the Air Force, Bob obtained his Bachelor's of Science in Management with emphasis on sports medicine because he's a jock in 1999 from National American University. But because of the family life balance, and again, we'll talk about that, Bob chose to move his career into the Postal Service, and he became a mail carrier for 17 years.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you for that too, because we like our mail. And then he retired from the post office in 2021. Now, Janet finished she had a career in anesthesia. And so she finished her career in 2023 with 42 years in medicine. That's a long time. Janet is a strong voice. Now, this is what's really important. Listen, guys, she's a strong voice on speaking on the benefits of holistic treatments. Now, think about that. She was in the medical industry in anesthesia and has seen all parts of the medical industry. And she is an advocate for holistic treatments.
Awesome. That's right.
So now they're together. They worked with health and wellness space in the health and wellness space, helping others to live a healthier, longer life without drugs. So everybody put your hands together for Bob and Janet Hudson.
Welcome, Bob and Janet.
Welcome to the show. So Janet and Bob, you guys met in high school, and we know this story because we're nosy, and we're like, tell us more. So true reveal here. Bob and Janet are like brother and sister to us, so that's why they said yes. But Bob and Janet met in high school, and so wait, how many years have you guys been married then?
This will be 44 years on the July 26th.
44 years. That is just spectacular.
Happy anniversary coming up too.
What a story just in and of itself. 44 years. And how many years have you known each other then?
47.
47. Almost a half a century. That's really awesome, man.
To think you've lived your life longest with this person more than anybody else in the world.
And they're really still smiling, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Almost a half a century together.
Do you two like each other?
She's
Most
okay.
of the time.
Yeah, she's okay.
You don't have to always like somebody to love them.
That's true. That's true.
You know,
but
the
it helps.
the world needs to see more of this, though.
Yeah,
Here's a
yeah.
couple, almost a half a century they've known each other, and they're still rocking it along. Okay, so here's the story. How did you meet? We know there's two versions. Actually, there's three versions.
No. We've heard their version. Actually, it lines up pretty well.
Yeah. So let's go with it. Let's go. Who wants to go first?
You want to say?
Basically, she was dating my best friend for a couple months, and we ended up going to the great concert, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, and Loggins Messino down in Tampa. And that supposedly is when she liked me better than Billy.
Okay.
And then from there on out, then it took a while. And then on one beautiful sunny day, I walked into McDonald's, and there she was behind the counter. I said we should go out on a date one time, and she went, "Okay, when?"
Wow.
So
put your words out there.
Yeah.
What do you mean? When?
Like, oh, okay, we should go maybe this weekend coming up. And she went, "Sure, that would be fine." And I said, "Well, there's the fair in town or stock car racing." And she went, "Well, how'd you answer that?" You just kind of went,
Well, I knew he wanted to go to stock car racing, not to the fair. So I wanted to go to the fair. But I said, "Oh, let's go to stock car racing. That sounds like fun. Like you can really talk with all that loud noise, right?" But that's what we chose to do.
But it was a very intimate time with all the noise, and I think we had a hot dog or popcorn or something together and stuff like that.
What's cool is in this story is Janet was attracted to Bob at the concert. And so she had her sights set. And so when he came into McDonald's and saw her, she said yes. So,
Well,
no wishy-washy.
We had hung out for probably, it was more like 6 to 8 months. I was dating Billy. But anyway, we hung out a lot together. It was like the three of us because they were joined at the hip at that point in their lives. So we did a lot of things together. And I just got to know him as a friend. So, and I think that's very helpful if you have a friendship before you have anything more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because in a friendship, you get to see everything. There's no hiding. You just being yourself with each other. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Absolutely.
So now you two meet. We're going to jump into, well, actually you had children before you went to serve. So you had Jessica before.
Just Jessica.
Just Jessica. Okay. So now what are you two doing when Jessica is born? You guys are you're in the military. Yes.
Yeah, we're in Conway, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Conway, South Carolina, where Jessica was born at the hospital. And she was 2 years older about the time we left. You know, I left first, had no idea Janet had to come later on because, you know, back then we didn't have the cell phones or any communication. I was just kind of let known that the medical hospital was coming. And then they told me, "Yeah, it looks like your wife's coming too."
Oh, wow.
And so you're both in the Gulf War together.
Yes.
This is where she's coming to see you, not to see you, but to serve.
So one little story with that is Janet actually gave our daughter to the neighbor for her sister to come up, drive from Florida to pick her up.
Oh.
So, you know, it was not a smooth, we have relatives close by and, you know, so her sister and husband drove up to get Jessica, but she was already gone by that time.
So wait, this is your first deployment, though. The first time you're leaving Jessica, right?
Yes.
Yes.
First time we both left Jessica.
When we both left. Yeah.
Okay, so Bob, you're already gone saying goodbye to your wife and your baby.
Yep.
Okay, that's emotional enough. And then Janet, how much time do you have before when they say you're ready to deploy? Was it 24 hours?
Well, after Bob deployed, about a week later, they told us we were going, and it was somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks, and I was already in Saudi Arabia after he left. So what was really great about that is a lot of the guys and gals that went earlier, they set up our tent city for us. So when I got there, my tent was already in place. I didn't have to put it up.
Oh, but hold on. If they didn't, you would have had to set up your own?
Well, not me personally, just me, but the group of us would have set up our own tents.
So
they had that all set up for us, so that was
I want to go back to, you have 4 weeks to say goodbye to Jessica, because now you know, in 4 weeks, I'm going, my 2-year-old, okay, honey, mommy's going to go be with daddy. Well, and you know that you're going to be at the same place that Bob's at, correct? Or
Yeah,
no?
we were both stationed at Myrtle Beach, and the hospital went to help the troops that support the troops that were already there and coming in. More troops were coming in.
So your sister comes and picks up Jessica, takes her back, and now, but you were your sister came up to Myrtle Beach from
Florida.
Tampa, from Florida,
from St. Pete area.
Okay. So now you get there and you two see each other.
Hi. She's an officer. I'm enlisted.
He's a gentleman.
And so the officer and gentleman got together.
That's cool.
And we waved at each other and hugged each other. And then we went to separate tents because there was no marriage tents.
Right.
Yeah. But the fact that you two could be that far away from home and wind up in the same place, how did you coordinate that? I mean, what's the story behind that?
Well, there's no coordination. The Air Force said the flight line people went, which is Bob was on flight line, and then the hospital went to support them. So we were, going to be in the same place.
Yeah, because it's the Gulf War. Everybody's going there.
Okay.
And we were at King Fahd International Airport, which was the closest base to Kuwait,
the front line.
To the front line. So yeah, we were all there together, and
so if we could dive into this a little bit deeper, and you guys can sum up what that entire experience meant to you in your life and your marriage and everything. Janet, what would be a good way to kind of summarize that season of your life? And then we're going to move on to the next.
Because we want to know the bunker part.
Because we want to move from the armed services back to the civilian life and how you guys made that transition. There's got to be a lot there.
Sure. Honestly, when we went to Desert Storm, our marriage was not in the best place. We were struggling a little bit. And it's amazing how God uses trauma, going off to war and leaving your child behind is traumatic. Yeah. He'll use that to bless you. So through that whole experience together, it really bonded us back together and really strengthened our relationship.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a very, very important point that Janet just made. She said that it wasn't in a very good relationship, but because look, they gave of themselves and look at what they got back in return. That's awesome. Go ahead. So
we really strengthened the relationship over there. It was very interesting because you're husband and wife, but you're in separate areas. And the nurse commander of our hospital and the assistant actually had like a small trailer, like with a bedroom on each side and a bathroom in the middle. And we had 8 couples in the hospital, both spouse, they were all there, right? So 16 people that both husband and wife were there. So they decided that once a week they were going to make their area the Love Shack. And you could sign up on a calendar when you wanted to be at the Love Shack. So
that's nice though, because you get to sleep together. Yeah.
I mean, it was even more than that intimacy was the ability to talk about Jessica and just share those really important things you want to talk about. Well, that's a woman's perspective. Probably Bob's perspective was the other thing was more important.
No.
All right, Bob, tell the truth.
So I'd go back the next day to the hospital and everybody be looking at me and joke with me. Oh, you look happy,
And you're like, yeah, we had a nice conversation.
Which guys
so tell the story about the bunker. I mean what's it called? The bunker?
Yeah, it's a bunker.
Yeah. Tell that story because when you told us that, I was just blown away.
Go ahead, babe.
Okay, well, basically it was Super Bowl. The war had just started and we were able to watch the Super Bowl in a big open area with, a big screen, one of those old screens, that was 4 feet thick and, probably 70 inches and everything. One of the big old ones. And we were out there watching it with a whole bunch of our friends, Well, we weren't wearing gas masks at the time, but we're watching the Super Bowl. And at halftime, that's when the alarms went off and we all had to run to a bunker of some sort for protection because we didn't know what was happening.
So let me ask you this. Everyone just wore gas masks just when you walked outside? That was just
we
normal?
had it on our hip like a pistol.
Really?
Yeah, we all had to carry our gas mask because they didn't know if we were going to get chemically attacked or not. So that's why everybody was in full chem gear. And, luckily it was during the winter because it's extremely hot.
Chem gear is
Chem
very
gear
hot.
is.
It's insulated with charcoal.
Yeah.
Stuff, so it's just really hot.
Okay.
So, so of course, the alarm goes off. Everybody runs to a bunker. Well, Janet and I run to the same bunker. We'll put our gas mask on, and we're sitting there and going, okay, are we going to get bombed? What's going on, type thing. And it was one of those reality seconds when I looked at her and went, imagine me with a gas mask on and her on the gas. And I look at her and go, this is really stupid. We should run to different bunkers so our daughter has a chance to have a family. And and that hard reality was, oh crap, we should have done that. We didn't think about it because at the time we were just together.
Yeah, we just ran.
And then
the closest one.
From there on out, we always said, whatever happens, one of us has to go the opposite direction, just so in case we get bombed, one of us may be able to live and take care of our daughter.
What a great aha.
Yeah.
That was one of those.
But ladies and gentlemen, listen to that. These are conversations that you have to have when you're serving and when there's a war going on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, these are conversations that the average civilian is not having.
That's right. Yeah.
So not in America. I mean, in some countries they are, just being a civilian and being bombed in their cities. So that's when we say thank you for your service. That's another think about what goes on up here for them, and then the heart. Forget about just serving for your country. You're serving with everything you are. So that's pretty intense. Thank you for sharing that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we are really blessed to have this wonderful couple, Bob and Janet Hudson. They served in Desert Storm. They've been married for 44 years, known each other for almost 50 years. And we've been discussing that journey and that season of their life as they went through Desert Storm together. And if you haven't heard it all, you need to go back to the beginning and sort of catch that. So now we're going to step up a little bit and talk about transitioning from military life to civilian life. Let's kind of talk about that. Did you guys both get discharged at the same time? Did you get discharged because of some kind of disability, or what kind of things happened while you were serving this country?
Well, I'll take it from here because we both got transferred into San Antonio, Texas, because Janet was going through anesthesia school. Well, at that time, the military said, the Air Force said, do you want to cross train or get out type thing? In other words, so I had to have a new job. And I said, well, just keep me with my wife and I'll be fine, because it was only a year since Desert Storm. So I did not want to break my family up at all. When they came down to the point where they said, Janet, you're going to California, and they didn't know what they were going to do with me. I said, now's the time for me to get out to protect our family.
Smart.
So I got out, and that was probably the next hardest thing I ever did in my life, is I took care of my daughter for a year.
Wow.
Now,
And how old was she?
3 going on 4. And let me tell you, it was very hard. I understand what everybody goes through when they take care of their kids at home.
Yeah.
Because
you're doing her hair.
I was doing everything, and so I got out just because Janet needed to finish her career. So that's, I was focused on her career and taking care of our family.
And again, she's on the West Coast and you're in San Antonio. So you guys are
No,
living
I went with her because I got out of the military at that time.
Okay.
So we just all went together.
We went to
so
Travis
you
Air Force Base.
in California.
In California.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what he's trying to tell the story, I'll just shorten it.
Okay.
I had a really long, bad day in my training. Like we're talking 14, 16 hours. I came home and I didn't respect what he had been with her all day and did, and fussed at him about not having everything picked up. So that's the short end of that story. He would tell a much longer version. I'll just shorten it. So, and truly, most spouses, when there's a stay-at-home parent, they don't appreciate what's going on all day long.
Yeah.
They just see that little snippet of time when they come home, right? And so maybe that's a good thing for people to think about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So in other words, when you walk into the room after a long, hard day of work, take a breath and just go, well, she must have been busy, or he must have been busy all day too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this later. Whatever I see, maybe the dishes are in the sink, and you don't realize that she just cooked you a full course meal, and but all you see is dishes in the sink again. It's like, come on, So
that was relevant then. It's relevant now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's called common courtesies in marriage, just the common courtesies that we just don't even
and
think
especially
of.
raising children. I think that everybody needs to give everybody else grace. If you're coming home after that spouse has been with the child all day and you don't know, or children, you don't know what's going on or how difficult a day it's been for them. Just give a little grace. So I did not give grace that day.
That's good.
And there's a lot of us out here.
I walked out for a while.
He left me for a
I
little bit.
was like,
he said, "Here you go. I'm done.
I'm done." And I walked out. And,
People are laughing because if you have children, you've been through it. You've been through it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't even matter if you both work. At some point, somebody's going to be at home by themselves with the kids, and the other one's going to come back and go, "Did you do anything? Did I do anything?" We always say raising children, and Stephen has always said this too. Raising children is the hardest career you will ever have, and especially if you have a career and then raising the children a career. My hand goes up to single parents.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we have Bob at raising Jessica for a year, I guess. I mean, not raising alone, but being the stay-at-home dad, which is you were a Renaissance man, because that's a big thing now. There's a ton of stay-at-home dads now. So you walked the path for that, and so then you went into, when was Tyler born? Where were you guys at?
California. After I graduated from that program, I was asked to stay on there for another 4 years, and Tyler was born there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have to say that Bob was kind of a rebel that year. Well, even more than that year. You did that in South Dakota too. He always tried to join the Air Force wives, the officers' wives club.
Yeah. They wouldn't take him?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they had to. They didn't have a choice, but he was the only man in the group, so he just thought that was, I can help too.
That's right, absolutely. That's good. Good for you, Bob. Good for you.
Rebel.
Yeah. So now we went from your military career. So Janet, now you're finished. Are you working? Was your intention to work at a hospital or with a private practice or?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that leave the military, it's very difficult to transition. And I think that's partly why it's difficult for people who've been in the military just to figure out what they're going to do job-wise. They've lost their community, their sense of community, because you form quite a strong community.
That's good.
And they lose that. And I think that's part of why our suicide rate for veterans is so high. So I was really blessed because I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got out of the military. I was going to do the same thing I was doing in the military.
Right.
So I didn't have that issue like a lot of people did with Bob. He took a little time to figure out that, like we said earlier, that probably what he was trained to do in his degree was not going to be good for the family, because he would have to work every evening and they wouldn't be home with the kids when they were doing their sport things. And so, that was just a decision that was made as a family. But I did not have difficulty transitioning. It was a difficult transition community-wise. We came to a small town in Tennessee that we love, but it's very, most of the people that live here have lived here for generations, their families, So if you weren't in that group, then it took a long time to get acclimated. I'll just say that it took time to get acclimated. So that part was difficult. I would go try to meet neighbors and bring brownies to them and stuff, and bring stuff at Christmas, and they're all looking at me like I'm well, this is nice, but we're not used to this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just what we do in the military. Just do it,
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing what you're saying about the transitioning, because that's a good point. Is there anything out there? Are there any organizations that help military transition? Probably now, but maybe not then.
Yeah, there definitely are some now,
Mhm.
and there are even some businesses that help people transition, deciding what they want to do in their career.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, there is definitely more available now, definitely than there was back then.
Well, I'm telling you guys, I'm surprised that they're saying that it was hard to. No, actually, we lived in that town too. Well, we lived in that state too. It is hard to acclimate, but these two, when you go to their home, they have parties all the time, and they're all the neighbors and they're everybody else around. So they acclimated really well because everybody loves Bob and Janet. Their house is the party house. So yeah, and you raised I guess you could say you raised your kids there because they were little when they got
They
there.
were. Jess was in 6th grade and Tyler was 4 when we moved to Maryville. So yeah, they pretty much, Tyler, this is all he knows is home, and Jessica knows mostly South Dakota and here, which was my base before here.
What's interesting is, as you guys are sharing, it seems what's really evolving here is a true love story. There's a real true love story here of two people who, for whatever reason, just figured it out. I mean, they figured out how to make things work, and they're still doing that. After 44 years, they're still working through issues and figuring things out for success. If you're still with us, you got to buckle up, because the best is yet to come. Looks like we're going to have a season 2 here, or part 2, episode 2 on this.
Episode 2.
So hang around. We're going to dive right into
communication, intimacy, and finance, because we like to talk to our guest, our couple guest, for communication, intimacy, and finance. So we're going to hit that on the next part 2.
Thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.